It's December 13th, 2025. We're studying Nectar Devotion, chapter 27 on Anubhava. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharane Nirvase Susanivadi Paskachade Satarane Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Stam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sadvadutam Parijana Sahita Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalitam Shri Vitam. Can the organizers please mute people? Vanchakalpa Chubishakti Pasandavya Bhatapati Tanam Pavanavyo Vaishnavavyo Namo Namaha. So we're studying the nectar of devotion, Bhakti Rasa Amrita Sindhu, the devotional ocean of the nectar of rasa. And here in the Southern Ocean, we're studying Vibhava, Anubhava, Sattvika Bhava, Vyavichari Bhava, and Sthai Bhava, all five of which are necessary to have rasa. We've already studied Vibhava, which is the stimulants. We studied about the alambana, the basic, which is the Vishaya, Krishna, almost always Krishna, except in some cases with some of the secondary saibhavs. Ashraya, the devotee who's experiencing the same kind of saibhav. And Udipana, all the various things that can enthuse us in devotional service. And now we're going on to the Anubhava, when we're enthused in devotional service. What's our voluntary means of expressing it? Prabhupada often calls this subsequent ecstasy or sometimes just sub-ecstasy because anu means to follow. So he's giving a very literal English translation of the word, but it is referring to voluntary action. So this is the second wave of the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu Southern Ocean. So this is all of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 2.2. This is the entire 2.2. And again, we have kind of the essence of rasa is the staibhav. Also, Srila Rupa Goswami also call it rati. And it's stimulated by the vibhav, which we remember has the alambana, basic, which is Krishna, the Vishaya, the object of love, and the devotee Ashraya, the reservoir of love, and the Udipana, or the general. Then the Anubhav, which are our voluntary actions. So the Vibhava stimulates the Staibhav, and this produces Anubhav, or voluntary actions. Sattvika Bhav, involuntary, Vyavichari, emotions. And all five of these have to be together to have rasa. The rasa generally has the same name as the Staibhava, but it indicates Staibhava with all of these. Okay, the basic connection, the stimulants, voluntary expressions, involuntary expressions, emotions, and taste, pleasure, impossible word to translate, Prabhupada says, the juice, the flavor, so forth. So today we're looking at the voluntary expressions. In other words, if you don't do anything, you have some staibhav with Krishna that's stimulated, but you don't do anything to express that, there's not going to be any taste. All of these have to be included. Okay, voluntary expressions. When the staibhav is stimulated by vibhava and agitated by vyavichari bhava, we'll discuss vyavichari bhava next week. Chapter 27. So this is a summary of chapter 27. Anubhava is the bodily symptoms manifested by a devotee in expressing ecstatic love for Krishna are called anubhava. Again, these are voluntary bodily expressions. Organizers, please make sure everyone's muted. Not involuntary. Involuntary are sattvika bhavs, which we will discuss on Monday. These symptoms are divided into two parts. One is called shita and the other is called shepana. For example, when there is yawning, the symptoms are called shita, and when there is dancing, they are called shepana. So the definition of
I have a
anubhava.
question there.
Why don't you wait till we go through it and then see if your question's answered? Okay? Is that all
Okay.
right? Thank you. This is just
Yes.
introductory. Okay, so Anubhava, bhava means the ecstasy, emotion. It can also mean existence. Anu means what follows. As Prabhupada will call it, subsequent or sub-ecstasy. So what follows? If I love you and my love for you is stimulated, I will do something, right? I'll do something. So if you're my friend and I hear about you or I see you, other people are talking about you, I'll do something. I'll buy you a birthday present. I'll cook for you. I'll take you out shopping. I'll do something that will follow. That will follow from my relationship with you. That's what's going to follow. I remember many years ago, I met this lady at a Sunday feast in Boston who said, well, I'm a disciple of Jesus. I said, that's wonderful. I said, suppose you didn't tell me that, and I just looked at your life. How could I tell that you're a disciple of Jesus? She said, well, you couldn't tell. So then there's no anubhava. Anubhava is going to be some voluntary actions. Those actions which express the bhava situated in the heart, they are predominantly external transformations and thus are called shining in the body. So when we discuss sattvic above on Monday, we're going to discuss more about the internal changes. So we can recognize to some extent, a devotee's internal changes by the external features, especially if we've experienced some of these ourselves. And as we discussed in the section of Vibhava Alambana Ashraya, such symptoms are also visible in sadhakas to some extent. Remember, we had the sadhakas who are Ashraya? So continual, Prabhupada writes in a purport to Bhagavatam 3:14-48, continual perfect love of God, it is called the Sthai Bhava. That's again a relationship. Krishna is my master, Krishna is my worshipful object, etc. When it is performed in a particular type of transcendental relationship, it is called Anubhava. And a particular type of transcendental relationship. Okay. In Bhagavatam 5:19-10, we have Bhagavat Anubhava Upavarnanam, which describes the process of God realization. How we come from a bud to a flower, how we come from a bud to a flower, this Anubhava actions. All right, and there are two types: chitta meaning cool with lack of bodily movement, shapana meaning throwing about. So the Shita Anubhavas are much more mild, things like yawning, singing, breathing heavily, disregarding others, drooling, and smiling. And Shapana are much wilder, like dancing, rolling on the ground, shouting, stretching of the body, bellowing, laughing loudly, whirling about, and hiccuping or belching. So Shita here does not mean cool in temperature, but cool in intensity of bodily movement. And it's very interesting. Srila Prabhupada writes, when there is an extraordinary excess of ecstatic love with all these bodily symptoms manifested, one feels relieved transcendentally. One feels relieved transcendentally. So we're expressing our feelings, just like even materially, when we have very strong feelings, we feel some relief when we express those feelings, when we don't just keep them bottled up inside. And Krishna likes it when we show our love for him. Krishna wants, just like we like it when people show their love for us. Uh, Krishna is not so much interested. Very, 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 very important point. Krishna is not so much interested in the service, but to the love. So actions we do just externally with our body, without it being a result of love, are not very interesting to Krishna. Mhm. So what Krishna and Krishna, so we're relieved when we have a way of showing our love, and Krishna is happy when we showing our love. Okay, we're going to look at examples here. All right. Here's an example from 7:734. One who is situated in devotional service is certainly the controller of his senses, and thus he is a liberated person. When such a liberated person, the pure devotee, hears of the transcendental qualities and activities of the Lord's incarnations for the performance of various pastimes, his hairs stand on end on his body, tears fall from his eyes, and in his spiritual realization, his voice falters. Sometimes he very openly dances, sometimes he sings loudly, and sometimes he cries. Thus he expresses his transcendental jubilation. So here we have Anubhavas, being a controller of the senses, dancing, singing loudly, and this crying could be a sattvic above as an expression of transcendental jubilation. Now, hearing of the Lord's qualities, activities of the Lord incarnation for the performance of pastimes, these are udipanas. Tears falling is sattvic above, voice faltering is sattvic above. Okay, let's go through these examples. And these are all examples right now that we're looking at the Southern Ocean second wave. In this presentation, we are going to look at other places as well. Now, some of these may not seem very voluntary, like hiccups or drooling, but they are under the control of the devotee and they involve intelligence. Whereas the sattvic abhavas happen without any intelligence being involved. So here, stand and then there's no intelligence, but evidently with hiccups and drooling, there is some. Some of these are going to seem a little odd from a material point of view. Love can sometimes be odd, and I suppose love can sometimes even be a little inconvenient. Okay, dancing. Seeing Hari practice his flute playing, Shiva trembled, which is a sattvic above, and danced, which is an anubhav, along with Ganesha, to the rhythm of his drum. So, of course, dancing is one of the main anubhavas in our Hare Krishna movement. Chanting, dancing, feasting, rolling on the ground. We have Akura who rolls on the ground when he sees Krishna's footprints. Srimati Radharani smells Krishna's forest garland and starts rolling on the ground. So again, here we have the Udipanas, seeing the footprints, smelling the fragrance of the garland. So those are Udipanas. They stimulate the Staibhav in Akura of Dasyabhav and Srimati Radharani of Madhuryabhav. Those are their Staibhavs, and that produces these Anubhavs of rolling on the ground, singing loudly. So Srimati Radharani's singing made her friends stone-like, and the stones melt. So her friends becoming stunned is a sattvic above. When the heart melts, then one can become stunned. So singing loudly. So also this is a common anubhav in our Hare Krishna movement. Shouting. Narada's chanting made the demons flee, thinking Lord Nrsingadev had appeared. He must have been really shouting. And Radharani cried like a kukari bird. So the chanting of the pure devotees also chases away the demoniac nature in our heart, doesn't it? We ask Lord Nrsingadev to take away the demons in our heart. Stretching the body. While singing with bliss, accompanied by the Veena, Narada stretched his body violently so that his sacred thread broke completely. I don't know how he did that. Some kind of stretching. Like, wow, what sort of ecstasy must he have been experiencing when he's chanting? So, of course, singing is also an anubhava. So singing is an anubhava, and then stretching is an anubhava. He's so much meditating on the glories of the name. Crying loudly. So this is not like just crying, which is a sattvic above. So Lord Shiva, he cried loudly, so the demons became vanquished and the devotees became joyful. I have sometimes seen such exhibitions of Anubhava in our Hare Krishna movement by some of our advanced devotees as well. Yawning. Now, again, we could think of yawning as involuntary, but one could intentionally. There can be some intelligence there. So here we have Orada, when Krishna, who preserves the bliss of the earth, appears in front of you. It is surprising that you yawn in lethargy. Usually we think of yawning as being tired. So here Radharani, Srimati Radharani's friend is saying, Krishna's coming in front of you and you're yawning like you want to go to sleep, but actually she's yawning as an anubhav. And this yawning is compared to the blossoming of the kumuda in the moonlight. So some flowers, most flowers blossom in the sun, and some flowers blossom in the moonlight. Breathing heavily. So Lalita is just like a chataki bird, which only takes water falling directly from the rain cloud, Krishna, and not from any other source. Her heavy breathing and tears were like a wind that blew Krishna away and upset her. So this is interesting. So Krishna's there, and she's just breathing so heavily, and she's having tears, and Krishna's like, okay, I'm not gonna hang around here, and he left. And then she's like, oh no, why was I doing that? So sometimes our symptoms of love may drive away the beloved, or sometimes they interfere with our service. We'll have this example of Daruka with the Sattvic above, in which case the devotee will prioritize the service. The devotee will think, well, I want to serve Krishna rather than have these anubhavas or these sattvic abhavas. And at the same time, Krishna is very charmed by the conflict that we have between doing our particular service and these manifestations, either sattvika or anubhav, these manifestations of love. And he sees this kind of dilemma in us, or sometimes between two kinds of services. And it very much charms him. So neglecting the presence of others. Now we have the wives of the brahmanas left home. This is a very common response to devotional love, that you just don't care what others think. I'm going to. I had one preacher recently made a statement that in Lord Chaitanya's time, people were leaving their families and going to Lord Chaitanya, but now we're knocking on people's doors. And I thought, well, in Mahaprabhu's time, they also went and knocked on people's doors, like Lord Nityananda and Haridas Thakur going out to preach. And in the modern times, people also, they'll just, leave everything and join Mahaprabhu's movement. I mean, this certainly happened in the 60s and 70s when Prabhupada was here. But it even happens now. I meet people all the time who are in this kind of a situation. They're just like, I don't care what anybody says. I was just recently talking to this one lady. Her husband is very opposed to Krishna consciousness, and she's staying with him. She's not leaving him, but she's like, I'm going to practice my Krishna consciousness, whether you like it or not. I remember this one other lady, Indian, but they were in a Western country, and she was older. When I met her, she was probably already over 60, top professional scientist. And her husband, he was a Hindu, but he didn't like Krishna consciousness at all. And he told her, you're not allowed to visit the temple. So what she would do was on her work break from lunch, she would sneak and visit the temple, or she'd go out and distribute books. She was actually one of the biggest book distributors, just going out on her lunch break. So we do see this. And of course, the wives of the Brahmin, they just didn't care. They just didn't care. There's a sacrifice going on. Their husband expects them to be there, and they just leave. Of course, we have, when Raghunath Das Goswami was doing this, he kept running away from home to join Lord Chaitanya, and Lord Chaitanya said, stop acting like a crazy fellow. He said, Krishna will give you opportunity. he said, and until that time happens, you should just stay home and act as if you're a materialistic person. So generally, the devotees are advised like that. Srila Rupa Goswami gives the analogy of a woman who has a married woman who has a secret lover, and she's doing her household duties even more carefully, so no one will suspect that she's having an illicit affair. But she's always meditating on when will I meet my lover? When will I meet my lover? When will I meet my lover? So that one acts in the world, like Krishna tells Arjuna, Mama Nusram Yujacha, think of me while you're fighting, that we perform our activities in this world as if we are ordinary materialistic people, but at the same time, they're at the same time we're always meditating. And Krishna Mahalakshmi wrote a nice thing that she said in Spain that they say you can yawn because you're in love. So that's very nice. So neglecting the presence of others also generally we're acting as respected people in the world. But this is from the Pajavali. Let the big mouths gossip. We will not consider it at all. By tasting the sweet liquor of Hari, we have become joyful and intoxicated. Let us fall on the ground, dance, and enjoy. So this verse is spoken by Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. And as far as being a preacher, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya had this upadi, he had this designation, he had this attachment. I'm a big scholar, I'm very sophisticated, I'm very honorable, and he had some pride in it. And so his taking the Mahaprasadam early in the morning before he'd even washed out his mouth and him openly engaging was a way of surrendering that false ego. At the same time, generally, we preachers act as respectable people in the world. Generally, we don't, no matter how crazy we are in bhakti, we don't generally act like madmen. Srila Prabhupada generally acted very as a respectable gentleman, so did the six Goswamis and so forth. But we do go down the streets of all the major cities in the world dancing, singing and dancing, and jumping and not usually rolling on the ground. But we do this, right? And we are definitely criticized for this. Definitely materialistic people criticize us for dancing and singing in the streets. I mean, when I was a teenager, there was this very popular song about called Dancing in the Streets about, let's go have a party in the city and let's be dancing in the streets. But the devotees are absorbed in love like this. So generally we care about public attitude, but what we don't care about is pride. And this is an important distinction. So like Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he didn't want to meet with the king because he says that if a renunciate meets with the king, then people will think, oh, the king's doing some favor for this renunciate, and that there's something political going on here, and it will be it will look bad for the renunciate. That why are you consorting with rich materialists who may be compromising your principles? And Mahaprabhu said a black spot on a white cloth is very visible. So we don't want to act in some crazy way where people will criticize us. At the same time, Srila Raghunath Das Goswami says, na dharma, na dharma. So we shouldn't have a pride. I mean, I know this is something that I've dealt with. Sure, I'm still dealing with it. Some pride about being dharmic. That, well, I want to be a respectable person. I want people to respect me. I want people to honor me. So that kind of thing, the devotee just completely gives up. Like on a personal level, whether people honor or respect me, it doesn't matter. I'm going to love Krishna for my preaching, for my service to Krishna. I'm not going to act like a madman. We think about even Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He mostly displayed his madman symptoms at the end of his manifest pastimes. And even then, Not so much when the devotees from Bengal were visiting. So those 4 months, he didn't show as many extreme external manifestations of ecstasy, for this reason, to show the respectability of Krishna consciousness. And we also have people, the other way that they'll show this behavior in order to get honor as a great devotee. As someone asked the other day about the sahajiyas. So, they're not actually feeling ecstasy. It's not a manifestation of love. They're just rolling on the ground and dancing wildly. So people will say, "Oh, what an advanced devotee you are." So you have this pride where, okay, I don't want to display my love for Krishna because people will think that I'm crazy. And then you have this pride of, let me artificially display love for Krishna so people will think I'm a saint. So the devotee is prioritizing their service, but of course, sometimes the love gets so intense that they need some expression, some anubhava expression. Okay, drooling. So drooling, of course, shows some sort of anticipation, some kind of eagerness. Salivating could be a symptom of eagerness, and one wants to salivate to show eagerness. So here we have Narada in Prema was motionless. Motionless is a sattvika bhav, and drooling, which is said this is normally a symptom of a scorpion bite, but in this case it was a divine anubhav. Okay, laughing like a madman. Laughing like a madman.
I don't understand what is this drooling.
Drooling is when saliva comes out of your mouth. Laughing like often we drool while we sleep. So the laughing sounds coming one after another are compared to flowers falling from the creeper of devotion, which grows within the heart of a devotee. So we will be looking at the hasya rasa, which will be described later, and different varieties of laughing and different varieties of smiling. So this is a particular kind of staibhav. But here we're looking. So sometimes it's similar things. You've got there's a secondary staibhav of jubilation, which has all kinds of smiling and laughing as the anubhav of that secondary staibhav. But of course, laughing can also be an anubhav of the other staibhavs. So laughing like a madman. So this is kind of rude, loud laughing, flared nostrils, where your nostrils are out, agitated glances while dancing. Although the loud laugh presents itself as ferocious to an opposing party when accompanied by abusive language, it presents itself as pleasing to one's own party. Thus, it can be depicted as somewhat soft. In this verse, someone of the same party describes a devotee's loud laughing, which indicates scorn for those who criticize bhakti. So, like, ha ha ha, look at those, ha ha ha, look at those people criticizing bhakti. So, one's own group enjoys a laugh at the expense of another group. So devotees take pleasure when those who criticize bhakti become an object of laughter. If we're just saying, oh, how ridiculous, saying that God can't have a form. How ridiculous saying that God can't come to this world. How ridiculous saying that everything came from nothing. Wheeling of the head. So Krishna's flute makes a gale wind that causes the women of Raja to whirl around. Hiccups or belching. So Lalita is disturbed that Radharani is hiccuping and belching or burping, and Purnamasi says this is from her chanting the holy name. All right. So these are the examples given in the Southern Ocean. So we're going to have a general open discussion. There's not going to be breakout groups, but a general open discussion. Okay. Any questions, or if you have any questions or anything that you want to discuss on these points? Yes, Mahalakshmi.
Yes, it is about singing because singing is not something casual. One brings into sound and words a variety of emotions through those words with music.
Right.
So it doesn't seem to me so casual like Sita, which is as it is being described.
I guess it's not as wild as dancing. And you can have you can have very, how would you say? I could just be sitting here, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. That could be kind of cool. I mean, cool in the sense of subdued. So that's different from the loud crying, Krishna, which is also an Anubhava.
But one can sing shouting also.
Yeah, yeah. So some of these could be combined. You could be singing and roaring. I was
Okay.
once at a ISKCON kirtan where the leader was singing and roaring. Paneshwari Lakshmi, yes.
I'm having a really difficult time really differentiating between the voluntary and involuntary. Because when you think about, okay, for example, dancing can be voluntary. Can it also be involuntary?
No, no, some intelligence is required to dance. So the
Okay, so it's not,
involuntary ones, which we'll discuss on Monday, are things like um, your hair is standing on end. There's no
so
intelligence.
bodily functions in a sense. It's something that your body goes through kind of automatically, whereas, I mean, you said something, you said
Yes,
it takes
yes,
intelligence to do it. I mean, there's got to be
yes,
a will
yes,
behind it or a thought
correct.
behind it. Will that
Correct.
differentiate? Okay.
Correct. That's exactly correct. And Srila Goswami talks about with the involuntary how it's love mixing with certain elements like earth, water, fire, air, ether in the body that then produces different symptoms in the body. And it just happens automatically. Like you just start shivering automatically. There's no intelligence involved. Okay, Asutosh asks in the chat, do these Anubhavas cultivate involuntarily? If a person is of shy nature, do they start feeling it all of a sudden? I'm not quite sure what you're asking, Asutosh. I think the answer is that, which is going to be discussed more also in the Sattvic bhavs, that when the sthai bhav is acted upon by the vibhav and also by the vyavichari bhavs, it produces a state in the heart which needs expression. And so it expresses on its own in terms of perhaps hair standing on end and being stunned, and the person wants to express it. Again, in this world, when we have strong feelings, we want to express them in some way. We and as it was stated that they give some relief. So as far as shy introverted persons, we have a certain psychophysical nature in this world. Some of us are more extroverted, some of us are more introverted. But even in our original spiritual forms, there are some devotees that are more extroverted and some that are more introverted. Like we have, the descriptions of the cowherd boys. Some of them are very argumentative with Krishna, some of them are very mild with Krishna. So I'm sure that they display these anubhavas differently, which we will talk about at the very end of today's class also.
Thank you, Mataji. I mean, this
Is
was
that
in,
okay?
yeah, reference to my wife. I've never seen her. She's very introvert. Never seen her dancing or even like crying out there in the open. But we went to New Vrindavan, and all of a sudden, I realized that she's dancing with the other devotees. Yeah, that was like quite a thing for me to witness. And that's where I felt like, is that something which has come involuntarily? I think you already answered that. It is
No, yeah, it's
already in.
not involuntary. It's involving
Yeah.
intelligence, but obviously what happened was her feelings for Krishna got so intense that even though she's normally very introverted, she wanted to express it. Yes, yes, Paneshwari
Absolutely.
Lakshmi, exactly. That is exactly what Rupa Goswami says. The feeling is so strong you want to express it to release the tension. That's one reason, yes. But also you just want to express it, you just like I want to show you, Krishna, that I love you. All, all of the external physical services we do in the Hare Krishna movement are in the category of Anubhav. All of them. If like, I want to clean the temple. I want to make the ghee wicks. All of those services are all categorized by Anubhav. And what they should be, I mean, sometimes we do this because someone asks us to and we don't want to. Would you clean the temple? Okay, I'm going to clean the temple because my authority is telling me to. And if I don't clean the temple, I won't get any kitri. And sometimes maybe we're doing services because we become convinced by Shastra that if I do these services, I'll attain love of God or I'll get liberated or something. Okay, so if I want to go back to Godhead, I've got to do these services. So let me clean the floor to clean my heart. I don't want to clean the floor, but Prabhupada says if I clean the floor, I'm going to clean my heart. So, okay, I'll do it. So those are not anubhavs, and they're not an expression of love, and they don't create much love either. But if we're thinking, wow, look at that, the floor is dirty, Krishna's floor is dirty. What can I do? How can I take care of my beloved's floor? Right? Like I've got a good friend coming to visit me today after class, and I mean I keep my room very clean all the time. But I was thinking this friend who's coming is a particularly clean and organized person. She's one of the cleanest and most organized people that I have ever met in my entire life. Like I thought I was clean and organized until I met her. So I was particularly looking around my extremely small room here and just thinking, is there anything out of place here in my room? Because if there is, she'll ask if she can help me organize it. And she'll say, "Hey, can I help you organize this thing in your room?" So I organize my desk a little bit because I love her. I want her to be happy. So that's an unabove. Yes, Nardarishi.
Yes, Hare Krishna. Some of these in this list that we just seen that seem like involuntary more than voluntary. Can it also something like yawning, for example? Could it be like say? I think the example was Radharani yawning when with Krishna. Could it be also like like play or pretend just to tease Krishna or something like that? Will that be a
That's possible. That's certainly possible. Um, but like Mahalakshmi said that in Spain they sometimes say you yawn out of love. So I'm not sure if I've ever yawned out of love. I'm not sure if I've ever drooled out of love either. I've definitely danced out of love and sung and singing out of love, but drooling and yawning, I at least I have no experience in this body. So maybe Krishna will give me that experience. Hearing me say this, he'll probably say, "Oh, here you go." He does those sort of funny things sometimes. But yeah, some of these may seem a little bit involuntary, but the Srila Goswami does put them as voluntary. All right, so we're going to go on now
can I say something about the yawning?
quickly. Yes.
Yeah, it is because everything else seems non-interesting, and therefore is this yawning is because one is thinking about the beloved and everything else is not, at least in Spain.
Sunyaitam Jagat Sarvam. So
Yeah.
without you, the world is vacant. Oh, very nice. Thank you. Thank you. I see Krishna and I'm like, oh, who cares about anything else? All right, there you go. Okay, now we're going to look, we've really looked now at the Southern Ocean. I want to look at the Western Ocean, which of course I'm going to be teaching this in January. So this is a small summary of overview of the Western Ocean, of the anubhavs that are particular to primary staibhavs. The anubhavs that are particular to primary staibhavs. So in Shanta Rati, neutral love of God. So what kind of anubhavas are particular for this staibhav? Staring at the tip of the nose. So we can think of, in meditation where Krishna says to stare at the tip of the nose. behaving like a renunciate, walking while looking 4 meters in front on the ground. Please don't ask me about that one. I have no idea. Showing the Jnana mudra. So this is this mudra. It's a particular anubhav done by those in Shantaras. Absence of hatred even toward the enemies of the Lord. So they're so neutral. I think I am sharing my screen. Is anyone else having a problem? Okay, okay, so I am still screen sharing. Ragini Sudevi, maybe there's a problem on your end. Okay, the absence of hatred even toward the enemies of the Lord. So neutral that you don't even hate the enemies of the Lord, and lack of attachment to the devotees of the Lord. So much neutrality that you just detached from friends and enemies, showing great regard for the final destruction of material bondage, siddhata, and for living without the influence of the gross and subtle bodies. Indifference, non-possessiveness, lack of false ego, and silence. So these are anubhavas of Shanta. Yes? Anubhavas of Dasya. Ras, Dasya Saibhav, being completely involved in serving according to one's capacity, having friendships with the other servants, with absence of even a trace of envy on seeing the excellence of others' service, and being fixed in their love, which are all considered shita, are the special anubhavas of the dasas. So this is very interesting. Absence of even a trace of envy on others' service. We do see this kind of behavior in the friends and the lovers, where there'll be some envy at seeing other service, some friendly rivalry. This does not evidently exist in the servants. Okay, so generally in friendship, in Sakyabhav, pleasing Krishna by hand-to-hand combat. So that's not going to be done by the servants. It's going to be done by the friends. Playing ball and dice. Riding on each other's shoulders. So that's like, but the parents, Krishna's going to ride on their shoulders, but they're not going to ride on his. Stick fighting. Sleeping and sitting with Krishna on a bed, seat, or swing. Now that, of course, will also be for other aunties. Telling pleasing jokes. Playing in the water. Singing and dancing with Krishna are the activities or anubhavas common to all kinds of friends. Then if we look at particular types of friends, so older friends, surits, Balaram is an example of an older friend, giving advice on what should be done or not done, giving Krishna advice, right? Engaging in beneficial acts because there's some parental mixed with this, being eager to perform all types of service. The younger friends, putting tambula in Krishna's mouth, applying his tilak, smearing sandalwood on his body, and painting designs on his face. So that's because the younger friends have some mix of servitude. But this is very intimate service. Of course, some of the servants also have this sort of anubhavas. Then equal friends. Their anubhavas are defeating Krishna in battle, pulling his cloth, stealing flowers and other things from his hand, the typical behavior of young boys, being decorated by Krishna, so decorating Krishna, having Krishna decorate them, and hand-to-hand combat. I hope, Anu Ragini Sudevi, can you see the screen now? Is it working now for you?
Yeah, yes, Mataji, Hare Krishna.
Okay. Sometimes these things have glitches. But thank you for letting me know, because it could be on my end, so I appreciate that. Now, the very dear friends, the Priya Narmasakas are involved with Krishna's romantic affairs. The other friends are not. So their specific anubhavas carrying messages among the young women of Vraja, encouraging the gopis' love for Krishna. This I think is funny. Taking Krishna's side when the gopis are there and Krishna is not there. Showing skill at siding with the chief gopis when Krishna is there, but the gopis are not. And arguing intensely by whispering in each other's ears. Prabhupada talks about when he describes this, he says, as if these things were all very serious, even though they were not. Of course, in one sense, it's the most serious thing because these are the intimate pastimes of God. So I really like this. So when they're just with the gopis, they stand up for Krishna. When they're just with Krishna, they stand up for the gopis. These are some additional that are anubhavas that apply to both servants and friends. Decorating Krishna with forest flowers and jewel ornaments. Singing and dancing in front of Krishna. So the friends are singing and dancing with Krishna. Servants and friends are singing and dancing in front of Krishna. Caring for the cows, massaging his body, fanning him, and there's others, these are some examples, are activities that the friends share in common with the dasas. There's no way that Srila Rupa Goswami is going to mention all of the anubhavas. There's going to be unlimited anubhavas. Parental, smelling Krishna's head, rubbing his body with one's hands, giving blessings to him, giving him orders, caring for him, protecting him, and giving beneficial instructions. You notice the beneficial instructions are also for the older friends. And the conjugal rasa, Srila Rupa Goswami mentions briefly things like glancing from the corner and the eye and smiles. So for the conjugal rasa, we're also going to go to Srila Rupa Goswami's Ujjwala Nilamani. And this is not all the examples, but some additional examples of anubhava specific to the conjugal or madhurya ras. Grasping a kadamba branch with budding reddish twigs of her fingers, Vishaka left the cottage of creepers at daybreak. So this is an anubhav. As I said, the anubhavs are unlimited. So this is just some example of an anubhav specific to the madhurya bhav. Placing her right hand on Krishna's shoulder and her left hand full of goosebumps, which is a sattvika bhav, on her hip, supporting herself on crooked feet, her head hanging slightly to the side, the moon-faced Saki appears fatigued from the rasa dance. It's an anubhava. So here's another one. Sincerity has entered the corners of Chandravali's eyes. There is modest entreaty in her words, and she is very respectful to me. Somehow her kindness has completely checked the anger in my heart. So these are all anubhavs. Wicked Kaliya, stand still. I am Krishna. Moving her arms, she imitated all of Krishna's pastimes. This is when the gopis were in separation. This is an anubhav. Here's another example. You've placed the sapphire necklace in your braided hair, the lotus flower hair decorations on your full breast, mascara for your eyes on your arms and legs, and musk perfume for the body around your eyes. In great haste to meet Krishna, you have forgotten everything. And an anubhava of speech. Dear Krishna, what woman in all three worlds wouldn't deviate from religious behavior when bewildered by the sweet, drawn-out melody of your flute? Your beauty makes all three worlds auspicious. Indeed, even the cows, birds, trees, and deer manifest the ecstatic symptom of bodily hair standing on end when they see your beautiful form. Okay, so we're going to take about a 10-minute break. So that will be until 8 o'clock in the morning, my time. And if you are in India, it will be until 6:30 in the evening. If you're in Malaysia, it will be until 9 o'clock in the evening. So take a 10-minute break. Please take a real break. Get up, move, and so forth. Okay, welcome back. Okay, we're going to look now at some other examples from other places. So we're going to look at examples from Krishna Das Kaviraj's Govinda Lilamrita. The bees by their indistinct sweet buzzing, the birds by their joyful chirping, the fruits by oozing sweet juice in jubilation, the gentle breeze by acting as a dancing master for the flowering creepers, and by flirting with the fully blooming lotuses, gave pleasure to all the senses of Krishna. So this is some examples of Anubhav in Shantaras in Vrindavan. So Shantaras in Vrindavan has these sort of distinctive features of Anubhav. Seeing Krishna approach, the trees smiled by blossoming with clusters of flowers. They sang with swarms of bees. They danced using all their fluttering leaves. They offered drinks in the form of honey and food in the form of their fruits. It's interesting because I've had some discussions with some senior devotees about Shantaras and can Shantaras exist in an absolute pure form as only Shantaras in the spiritual world. But here we see that there's some Dasyabhav in there. There's some mixture of Dasyabhav where those in neutrality in Goloka Vrindavan are doing these anubhavs of service. Okay, now we're going to go back to Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, but we're going to go now to the Northern Ocean. So in the Western Ocean, we looked at the anubhavs that were particular to the primary sthai of neutrality, servitorship, friendship, parental, and conjugal. Now we're going to look at the anubhavs that are particular to the secondary sthai. Just a little note, secondary sthai are very similar to Vyavichari or Sanchari bhavs. And Srila Rupa Goswami makes a distinction because he's following Bharat Muni. Okay, so Hasiras, laughing attachment to Krishna. So anubhavs are quivering of the nose, lips, and cheeks. Okay, we have something in the chat. Trees out of fear. I know. Paneshwari Lakshmi, hold that and we'll discuss it when we have our discussion at the end. I read it right after this section. We have a 10-minute discussion, so save it for that because I'm not sure what you mean. Okay, here we have Adbhutaras. Adbhutaras is wonder, awe. It's interesting. Srila Rupa Goswami says there has to be some Adbhutaras anytime anybody has any kind of pleasure of any sort. So opening the eyes wide is the specific anubhava. That doesn't mean there can't be others. In other words, if you're experiencing adbhutaras, you can display all the general anubhavas, but it's a particular anubhava of adbhutaras that you open the eyes wide. It's specific to that. Rasa, of course, that, like, whoa, what's going on? Again, the anubhavas are unlimited because they're any voluntary action you can do. Okay, viraras. So here is attachment to Krishna mixes with bellicose tendency for fighting, or charitable tendency, or merciful tendency, or also there's the dharmic tendency because there's 4 subcategories of the viraras. So here Srila Rupa Goswami says, if actions such as boasting, okay, Krishna, fight with me, I'm really strong, I'm going to defeat you in fighting, if they're only for one's own awareness, they are anubhavas. So, whoa, I'm great, I'm going to be able to fight with Krishna. Blah, blah, blah. The wise say the other anubhavas are self-pride, roaring like a lion, proud words, bounding about, enthusiasm to fight even without assistance, not fleeing from battle, and making the fearful fearless. So don't worry, I'm going to fight for you. You don't have to be afraid. So these are anubhavas of the virarasa. The karunarasa. So karunarasa is feeling compassion for Krishna, which often involves also lamenting, like the Ramayana is an example of a story that's full of Karuna Rasa when Krishna was in the coils of Kaliya. So the residents of Vrindavan were all feeling this Karuna Rasa. They were feeling great compassion for Krishna, and they were lamenting, oh, something bad is going to happen for Krishna. So here are Anubhavas of Karuna Rasa, drying of the mouth, moaning, slackening of the body, heavy breathing, shouting, falling on the ground. Now, falling on the ground could be for others as well, beating the ground with the fist. Oh, what's happening to Krishna? Oh, this is so terrible. How can this happen to Krishna? Oh, beating the chest. Oh, my Krishna is in trouble. What am I going to do? Devotion mixed with anger. This is certainly, this is one where the Vishaya may not be Krishna. You can be angry at a demon. You can be angry at your friends that you don't like the way they're acting with Krishna. So the Vishaya is not always Krishna for anger. So what are some of the Anubhavas? In fact, one of the examples given here of where the object is not Krishna is where Rohini got angry with Mother Yasoda for tying Krishna between the fallen trees. So that's an example when the object was another devotee. An example where the object, where the Vishaya was a demon, was the Pandavas getting angry at Shishupal. But sometimes the devotees are angry also at Krishna, especially the gopis tend to get angry with Krishna. Sometimes, yeah. Sometimes Mother Yasoda is angry with Krishna. So wringing the hands, grinding the teeth, reddening the eyes, biting the lips, deeply contracting the brows, flinging the arms, beating others. Silence, angry silence. Hanging the head down, heavy breathing, glancing with hostility, cursing, shaking the head, having the edges of the eyes turn pink, frowning and quivering of the lower lip. Just want to make a little note here. So the class I'm scheduled to give for tomorrow, the queens in Dwarka are cursing the birds that are waking up Krishna. They're saying, why don't you just die? And so they're angry at the other devotees. They're angry. The birds are also devotees, but they're angry at the devotees. Okay, fear. Fear can also be have another vishaya. One can be afraid of the demon. And as I said, actually, this picture is wrong, but it's a nice picture otherwise. Because Krishna put his left hand in Keshi's mouth, not his right hand. But Adarius Anubhava's drawing of the face. Again, we have this heavy breathing, looking backwards out of fear, hiding oneself out of fear, becoming unsteady, looking for shelter, shouting, and abominable horror, disgust. Now, here the Vishaya is never Krishna. One can be disgusted at one's own material attachments, for example. So the Anubhav of this rasa are spitting, distorting the face in disgust, covering the nose, and running away. All right. So what I'd like to talk about now is why there are general anubhavas and also anubhavas that are specific to primary and secondary rasas. Why do you think that that's the case? This is my question to all of you. And would there be anubhavas specific to individuals? Would there be some anubhavas that generally just individuals would have? So why are there general anubhavas and specific anubhavas according to Staibhav? And would there be individual anubhavas? So this is my question to all of you that we can discuss right now. Yes, Paneshwari Lakshmi. And you also had a question you wanted to bring up now.
Yeah. Doesn't there have to be specific since each of us has a special relationship with Krishna? So wouldn't
Yes.
that also be personal?
Yeah. I
That's
mean,
that's like my
there you
answer to
have
my question.
there you have the yeah, philosophy that it's interesting how unique each jiva is. And the example that I always give is when Krishna expanded himself as the boys and calves after Lord Brahma had stolen them. And Lord Brahma comes back and he's like, what's going on here? You know, he's completely astonished. And I've asked people, so why is he so astonished? Like, what's so astonishing? There's two. We've all seen identical twins or identical triplets. I mean, why couldn't there be two? Like, big deal. I mean, Lord Brahma's so astonished that he faints. And he's the smartest guy in the whole universe. He's got four heads, got four brains. He is. He knows everything that's going on. I don't even know everything that's going on in my room, my little tiny room. There's all kind of bugs in here. I have no idea that they're here or what they're doing. But he knows everything and he's astonished. So why? Because they were exactly alike. Of course, they weren't actually exactly alike because the rasa between the boys and their parents or between the calves and their parents was different when they were Krishna. But there can't be two jivas exactly alike. This is why Lord Brahma was so astonished because he was seeing something that was impossible. Each jiva is different. I mean, those of you who know identical twins, they're different. They've got different personalities. And you can usually even learn how to tell them apart physically. There's usually some kind of subtle difference. Of course, their hair goes in the opposite direction. Uh, so the point is that each jiva is unique and therefore would have some unique, their Staibhav is going to be unique. You know, we have these general categories of Staibhav, but each of us has a unique Staibhav. And therefore, yes, we're going to have unique Anubhavas. Sujana, yes.
Hare Krishna Mataji, to the first question, I think to increase more love towards Krishna and to increase more rasa, develop more rasa.
Mm, mm. So they're different for each of the Staibhavs to increase more love and increase one's rasa. Very good. Okay. Anybody else? Narada Rishi.
Hare Krishna, can I ask, regards the disgust that we just seen, was not there, you say Krishna cannot be the Vishaya, but wasn't
Correct.
there a devotee in Mahaprabhu's pastime that was looking at him in the kirtan and he was like all snot and things coming out of his sweat and all these things and he felt a bit of disgust.
I can't recall that any devotee felt disgust at that. If maybe you can find it.
Okay.
You can find that reference. You can send it to me privately over WhatsApp if you like, and then I'll take a look at it. But no, Krishna is never the Vishayi of disgust, of the disgust. One is disgusted at generally, one is disgusted at one's own anartas, one's own offenses, at material attachments, out of love for Krishna. Out of love for Krishna. It's not an egotistical kind of thing. You know, and an ego level, I'm disgusted at my bad qualities because I want to think that I'm perfect. And because I have you know, boy, I'm such a great person. And when I'm forced to look at the ways that I'm not a great person, I'm disgusted with out of pride. But this disgust as an ecstasy is out of love. You can think about, you know, again, on a material level, if I love somebody, I care about someone, and I've done something wrong, I've hurt them in some way, I may feel disgust at the way that I've hurt them because I love them, not because I have an arrogance about it. That can also lead to the secondary stibab of fear. I'm scared because I've committed an offense to someone that I love. I've hurt someone I love, but it can also be disgust. So the the secondary stibab of disgust is that I'm disgusted at anything that impedes my relationship with Krishna, it's primarily felt in the Shanta Bhav, in the neutral love of God, primarily is what it's mostly compatible with. Anyone else questions or realizations about the specificity of these anubhavs that we've discussed? Yes, Gaurangi Gandharvika.
Hare Krishna, I was just thinking like a lot of the time in our bhakti, I think how would I relish rasa or how would it make me happy? So I was just thinking like, oh, I would express my love to my parents or to my friends in a different way. Otherwise, it would be like incompatible and unfavorable. So that was like the obvious answer. And then I also thought, I try to think from Krishna's perspective too, like it's not just about me, my rasa, but also it would make him happier if he feels like, stick fighting or riding on each other's shoulders or saying jokes, and then you're not acting with Krishna in that way, and like maybe acting the Dasi ras or Shantaras, then he also won't relish like
Mm.
I'm guessing. Is that
Oh,
okay?
that's wonderful. That's wonderful. Yes. Yes. So when I'm relating with my friends or with my parents, both for me to experience Rus and for them to experience Rus, I'm going to change my manifestations to match the relationship. And we're going to we notice ourselves doing this sort of switching, correct? If I'm with persons with whom I have one kind of relationship, and then I'm with people with whom I have another kind of relationship, I switch my external behavior. I switch my way of speaking. I switch what I talk about. I change the topics. I change I change everything, really, depending on the relationship I have with them. Both, so I and they will experience some rasa, some pleasure in that relationship. So yes, these are there. And Krishna wants the devotees to, like the devotee wants Krishna to experience rasa. Krishna wants the devotee to experience rasa. So the devotee wants to experience rasa because Krishna wants the devotee to experience rasa. Like if somebody cooks for me, they want me to experience rasa in the food. That's what makes them happy. So when Krishna's doing things for me, reciprocating with me, he wants me to find happiness in what he's doing for me. Right? Whenever anybody cooks for me, like, did you like this? Did you like this? Did you like this? Did you enjoy this? So Krishna's also like that. Did you enjoy this? Did you enjoy this? And when we're sitting at the meal, we go, yum, wow, this is amazing. Then the person's like, yay. So, when Krishna is dealing with us and we exhibit our rasa, our love by dancing or by singing, and Krishna's like, oh, yay, they're happy with me. Okay, anybody else?
I just wanted to add something quickly from your
Yeah,
class, if that's okay. I
of
remember
course.
listening to one of your classes and you said that we want to make Krishna happy, but what will make, yeah, we want Krishna to be happy, and that makes us happy, but will give us even more and more happiness. And the greatest happiness is if we're the ones that make Krishna happy. So I thought,
Yes. Yeah. So what gives Krishna the greatest happiness is seeing that we're happy because of him. Yes. And our happiness is in seeing that Krishna's happy because of something that I've done. That I've been the reason why Krishna's happy. Again, we can understand this in our ordinary relationships. If I care about somebody, I'm going to be happy for any kind of happiness that they have, but I'm especially going to be happy for happiness that I've contributed to in some way. That's going to especially satisfy me. Oh, I've done something to contribute to this happiness. And the main thing I can do to contribute to Krishna's happiness is to be happy at what he's doing for me because he's feeling exactly the same way that Krishna's feeling. Thank you so much. That Krishna's feeling that, my happiness is being the cause of my devotee's happiness. And I'm feeling my happiness is being the cause of Krishna's happiness. So this ever increasing. All right, so we're going to
Can,
go on.
can I just add one more thing?
Yeah, one more thing. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, it reminds me of how Guru Maharaj, I'm telling this Jayapataka Swami says how the happiness kind of keeps feeding and it goes back and forth, increasing, increasing. And so it just that this whole discussion reminds me of that.
Yes, yes. I mean, it's so sad that people like myself, that we're attached to material happiness, which decreases. Material happiness always decreases. As you start eating the food, you're very happy, and the more you eat, the less happy you become. Or the more often you eat the same thing, it becomes boring. But spiritual, yeah, it keeps increasing and it keeps bouncing off each other. Yes, very nice. Okay. So now we're going to look at some examples from the Eastern Ocean of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. And here what we're going to do, we're going to look at examples and then we'll discuss each example separately instead of discussing them all at the end. So this is explained in the Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya 23, 18, 156. A lot of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu is also in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, and it's especially in these chapters in the Madhya Lila, interestingly enough, where the Lord is teaching Sanatana Goswami, who then taught Srila Rupa Goswami. So these are 9 symptoms of the stage of bhava. Here, bhava is being used differently. The word bhava here is being used as a stage in advancement. So from beginning faith to associating with devotees, to the practice of bhakti, to getting free of anartas, to becoming steady, to having a taste, to having attachment, and then having ecstasy. Bhava is defined as general ecstasy and then pure love. So in Sanskrit, that'd be adushraddha, right? Sadhusanga, bhajana kriya, anartana vritti, nista, ruchi, ashakti, bhava, prema. So this is symptoms of a stage called bhava. The word bhava can be used for many different things. And so here, these are the verses from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1, 3, 25 to 26, which is when Srila Rupa Goswami is describing the stage of bhava. The third wave in the Eastern Ocean is about bhava, and it's quoted by Lord Chaitanya in Madhya 23, 18 to 19. Okay, Srila Prabhupada's translation. When the seed of ecstatic emotion for Krishna fructifies, the following 9 symptoms manifest in one's behavior: forgiveness, concern that time should not be wasted, detachment, absence of false prestige, hope, eagerness, a taste for chanting the holy name of the Lord, attachment to descriptions of the transcendental qualities of the Lord, and affection for those places where the Lord resides, that is, a temple or a holy place like Vrindavana. These are all called anubhava, subordinate signs of ecstatic emotion. Again, the reason Prabhupada's using this word subordinate is because anu means younger, lesser, under. They come from the Saibhav when it's agitated by the Vibhav and the Vyavichari bhavs. Going on with Prabhupada's translation, they are visible in a person in whose heart the seed of love of God has begun to fructify. So bhava is considered the seed of love of God. So we're going to go through each of these 9 symptoms one at a time. And as we go through them, I'm going to ask, how is this an anubhav? Okay, so the first one is forgiveness, to remain tolerant and patient even amid great disturbance. And the pictures I have here are Brigham Muni stepping on the Lord's chest and Ambarish being attacked by this demon from Durvasa. So I want to open it up to all of you. How is this an anubhava? How is this a voluntary action coming from love of God? Any thoughts? Yes, Mahalakshmi. By the way, you shy people can just write something in the chat. Any of you who are too shy to raise your hand and speak out, you can always put something in the chat.
Sometimes I say
Yes,
something completely wrong, but anyway, I prefer to say. In the case of Ambarish Maharaj, I think because everything was non-important. Only his love for Krishna was important, and he could withdraw from the anger of Durvasa because he was focusing in the shelter of Krishna. He was sheltered by Krishna.
Very nice. Very nice. Anybody else have any thoughts? How this is an Anubhav? Okay, we have something in the chat. When it says trees bear, oh, that's another one. It says Bhaktir Bhagavati Akinchana. Yes, but can you explain to me how this is? Yes, Nardarishi is a choice. Yes, so my question is that how is this an Anubhava? How is this an Anubhava out of love? So Mahalakshmi talked about it being out of love, and Nardarishi's writing about how it's voluntary. Any other
Would
thoughts?
it be neglecting the presence of others? In this case, neglecting the presence of Durvasa.
Yeah, there, it sounds like there's a little bit of that in there too. I care what Krishna thinks more than I care what you think.
Can it also not be that your feeling for Krishna is more important than the quote unquote offense? Like what Krishna was so he from our understanding, Krishna loves us so much that he forgives us everything in his desire to get us close to him. I mean, look at what we have done, what we might have done in this lifetime or previous lifetimes, all the things that how much he has forgiven because his love is overwhelming. If that makes sense.
Yeah, very nice. I mean, one could be forgiving for other reasons. One could be forgiving, you know, out of Rajagun that, well, if I'm forgiving, people will praise me, they'll glorify me. Or, if I forgive you this time, you owe me, and I'll be able to cash in the favor. So that would be Rajagun or Tamagun. Or it could be forgiving out of Shanta, out of Sattvagun, that forgiving because it makes me feel happy. To forgive gives me freedom. Mostly when people talk about that we should develop forgiveness, they're mostly talking about Sattvagun. That when you forgive people, you feel free inside, you feel liberated. That's a very Sattvagun motivation. So we have Ranga Rama says in 9:15:40, states Lord Hari is pleased with those who are forgiving. Yes. So it could be, Krishna, I'm doing this to please you. Yes, Mahalakshmi.
I don't understand how Brigu Muni kicking the Lord is an Anubhava, is emotion, but is that out of
No, the Lord
love?
was forgiving. The Lord was forgiving.
Yes. So that was the Lord's Anubhava.
Yeah, the Lord has those too.
Okay.
For the Lord, who's his Vishaya? You.
The devotee, yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Wow.
you're his Vishaya. He has all the components. He's Akila Rasamrita Murti. He's experiencing all rasa. He's experiencing all these as well. And of course, the Lord also likes to have himself as the Vishaya. So therefore, he takes the role of Lord Chaitanya or as Govardhan and so forth. Okay, let's look at this one. Being free from wasting time. With their words, they offer prayers to the Lord. With their minds, they always remember the Lord. With their bodies, they offer obeisances to the Lord. Despite all these activities, they are still not satisfied. The thing, I haven't done enough for Krishna. Let me do more for Krishna. Let me do more for Krishna. Let me do more for Krishna. We have such a nice example of utilizing time with Srila Prabhupada and Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. So, how Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur had his schedule of, his personal sadhana, his writing, his time with his family, his time at his job. And he was using all of his time very nicely. Srila Prabhupada also, he had a general personal schedule he would follow in all different parts of the world, in all different circumstances. Prabhupada would say whenever he wants to relax, he would sing bhajans. So always utilizing one's time. All right. So how is this an anubhav? Or how can it be? Any thoughts? Okay, we have something in the chat.
I think
We heard,
Mataji, it is pretty, sorry, it
yes.
is pretty
Go ahead. Asutosh, go
straightforward.
ahead.
Yes, yes,
Okay.
Mataji. So it is pretty straightforward because if you have free time, you can do anything. But if you are in love, in awe and reverence, you are doing activities that are in Krishna consciousness. That's what I feel.
Mm, mm. Okay, very nice. Nardarishi.
Um, Hare Krishna. Krishna is time, so one can be constantly with Krishna. I know ways to.
Ooh, I like that. I like that. One is thinking, okay, I want to take care of Krishna who's time. That's really cool. Okay, in the chat we have, isn't this part of Loyam, agreed to spend as much time as possible to please the one we love? Yes. You want to spend Gaurangi Gandharvika, you want to spend time with the person you love. Utilizing one's time would be Shita or Kshepana. Probably some of each, wouldn't it? Probably sometimes it's some of each. Sometimes it's probably very active and sometimes it's a little bit more passive. Good question. Yes, I mean, we have wanting to spend time with who we love. We have the Krishna. We have the devotees who don't want to be separated from Krishna even for a moment. They don't even want to blink their eyes and not see Krishna. You know, one fraction of a second without Krishna seems to them like millions and millions and millions of years going by. Yes. Any other thoughts on utilizing one's time as an anubhav? By the way, we need to be careful if we're not on the platform of bhava that we don't artificially just try to imitate these sort of things and burn out. And I've seen devotees do that. I've seen devotees are like, okay, I can't waste a minute of time. I have to use every bit of time in Krishna service. And they forget that Krishna says one should be moderate in eating, sleeping, working, and recreation to be a yogi. Now, one can certainly have spiritual recreation. One can have recreation like Prabhupada. Prabhupada's recreation was sitting in his room singing bhajans. But the point is that I've seen devotees think that, you know, this utilization of time is more a means rather than an expression of love, that it's more a means, and they become workaholics, and after a while they burn out. So I've seen this, that this is not, doesn't mean that we become crazy workaholics and we don't sleep enough and we don't eat enough. It kind of reminds me of this one devotee I know recently got initiated, but he was a Catholic Franciscan monk. And when I asked him, tell me how you became a monk, and he said, well, my celibacy is a charism, not a discipline. So in Catholic terminology, a charism means a gift. And I really meditated on this difference of renunciation being a gift, a divine gift, rather than a discipline. So utilization of time is, here we're talking about it as an anubhava. We're talking about it as a natural expression of love, not some kind of regimented discipline. Obviously, we should try to utilize our time nicely in Krishna service. Without any question, we should try to do that. But we should do that in a way that we're going to be utilizing our time nicely in Krishna service for the duration of our life, and not just for a week or a month, and then we collapse because we haven't had enough sleep, or we haven't had enough things to eat, or we haven't had enough exercise, or things like that. Okay. Ekanista Vasudha, we want to do as much as possible perfecting ourselves before we return to Godhead. We also want to find what are the best activities when we meet Krishna Goloka, hopefully. Oh, that's a wonderful explanation of Anubhava. Any other thoughts on not wasting time? So, detachment. So, this is indifference to objects of sense gratification, not by force that may be done in ordinary vairagya. Again, we have this difference between but it's a manifestation of love, not a dry, forced discipline. So it's quite, we have like Hiranyakashipu who did his austerities to get powers. So he was forcing himself. He didn't actually have any detachment from sense gratification. And we know that because as soon as he got all of his powers, then he just went full on to sense gratification. So he was doing, we see this out in the world where a person works really, really hard and they're detached from everything else. They don't even spend time with their family. They don't spend time eating properly. They don't spend time sleeping properly so they can make a whole lot of money, right? They seem very detached. But this is a natural indifference that arises out of love. So we have this example, Bharat Maharaj, this is the example given by Srila Rupa Goswami, who gave up his family. Of course, it was interesting with Bharat Maharaj that he gave up his kingdom, he gave up his family, he was meditating on the Lord, especially particularly as Surya Narayan. But what he didn't give up, of course, was his concept that I am a kshatriya. So when there was a baby deer in danger, he immediately went to protect that deer, and he went way above and beyond what would be done by any person seeing. He got really into that on the protector, and he actually ended up interfering with his bhakti. Then, as Jad Bharat, then he was also completely detached out of love for Krishna. Like, okay, I'm not going to make that mistake. I'm going to do everything for Krishna. Okay, so thoughts on detachment as an anubhav. Rishi.
Hare Krishna, I think like because it's like a higher taste, and I'm thinking of the example of Dhruva, who compares what he was looking to broken glass. So naturally, like with a higher taste, it's minor things. It just naturally they just hold no interest for us. No.
Very nice. Very nice. Now, anubhavas can be not only expressions of love, but they are ways to grow love, but they're ways to grow love that are motivated by the love that's already there. So the love for Krishna that's already there motivates me to do activities which then grow that love. So it's both an expression of love and a growing of love. Any other thoughts on how detachment is an anubhav?
Can I say something?
Of course.
Because love feeling within is greater than anything around.
Mm.
So that love is greater, so everything else is not important. So
Okay, you've frozen. Okay,
no,
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
no, I cannot say anything else.
Okay. We have Ekanista Vasuda said, His Holiness Jaipataka Maharaj always mentions grahastas as paramahamsas who are involved in material activities but detached through active preaching for their love for Krishna and Guru. Yes, so they're involved with the world without attachment. They're involved in the world as a service. And this is, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur talks about this. I see my home as a temple. I see my family as your servants. I'm earning money to maintain your household. Anyone else? How detachment is an anubhav. Detachment from material activities to increase attachment to Krishna. Yes. Yes, as we're saying, all these anubhavas are also ways of increasing attachment. Yes. Anyone else? Any other thoughts or questions on detachment?
Yeah, Hare Krishna Mataji. When you start finding the higher taste, that's when anything which is in the materialistic world is lower taste. And you start having that realization. And
Mm,
then you develop more and more that love, you nourish it, and then with that you will feel like you are truly detached. I mean, I want to have a bigger house, of course, but that is not a necessity. I'll come to an understanding with that rather than just running behind it. So that's what I feel like. Detachment will actually start coming into you once you start finding more and more love towards Krishna.
Mm, mm. Very nice. Anybody else? Yes. Prem Prakash Haridas?
Hare Krishna, Mataji. If the room is full, it can't, nothing else can be brought inside. So
Mm.
first you got to empty the room. Detachment is getting empty, and then get the further attachment of Lord Krishna. So to
Mm.
create and get the space for Lord Krishna, you got to detach. That's an anubhav.
Oh, I like that. I like that. So I have where I stay here in North Carolina is an extremely small room. By Krishna's grace, one of the previous residents put cabinets in here. So there's actually like a very large cabinet. But because the room is so small, if I want to bring anything in here, I generally have to get rid of something. Like I mean, unless I bring something tiny. But it pretty much anything I bring, it's got to be one in, one out,
Yes.
you know? So if I want to bring something in, I have to get rid of something. So yeah, if I want to bring Krishna in, I have to make room. Yes, very nice. Very nice. Any other thoughts on detachment? I mean, one does have to be careful. One does have to be careful because uh, in our Hare Krishna movement, detachment can be an ego thing. We praise people who are detached in our Hare Krishna movement. It can be a status thing. And I've had people do that with me. I've had people praise me for detachment. And one time recently, it was actually very inappropriate. I'd been teaching a intensive 3-day course. I mean, really, really intensive, all day, 3 days, and really intense. And to do that teaching, I had to change my eating, sleeping program so that I could function with it. And on the last day of it, one of the organizers was praising me and said, "Well, Urmila sacrificed her health to do this seminar." And I said, number one, I didn't. I said, I made sure that I took care of my health. I said, I adjusted when I ate, what I ate, and when I slept, how I slept, all these things so that I could maintain my health. I said, and also, why are you praising me for neglecting my health? Why do we want to have a standard in ISKCON that people should neglect their health? But because we have this kind of mood about detachment, that devotees can become artificially detached out of pridefulness. So let me become artificially detached so people will praise me, or that I'll praise myself, that I'll think I'm a great devotee. And we've seen people who artificially act like they're detached and then they're not really detached and they fall on their face in some embarrassing way. Okay, I got a private message from someone. Engaging everything in Krishna's service, naturally detachment comes. I think that's a very good point. That if I'm using everything for Krishna, I naturally become detached from wanting to use things from my ego or for sense gratification. Okay, the next one, absence of false prestige. Absence of false prestige. So I put this picture up here. Um, these pictures up here when the deity stole the sweet rice and Madhavendra Puri was being praised. He immediately left Raimuna. He said, I don't want people praising me. Of course, the praise followed him to Jagannath Puri. And the other picture I have here is Shakshi Gopal, that the reason that the younger Brahmana wanted to ask Shakshi Gopal to come as a witness was not for his own ego or for his own sense gratification, but to honor the religious principles of the older Brahmana. So absence of false prestige. So here we have another example given by Srila Rupa Goswami. King Bhagirath was the emperor above all other kings. Yet he developed such ecstatic love for Krishna that he became a mendicant and went out begging even to the homes of his political enemies and untouchables. He was so humble that he respectfully bowed down before them. So how is the absence of false prestige in Anubhav? Any thoughts on this? Okay. Going the path of Vairagya, yes. Anyone? Any thoughts on how this absence of false prestige is an intentional behavior of the devotees motivated by love for Krishna? Yes, Narada Rishi.
I think it's doing some housekeeping because one knows how dangerous pride is. And so it has to be absent from our connection with Krishna. And like also I think when we say all glories to Srila Prabhupada, we tend to say this very mindlessly, very often, like just as thing we say, but all glories should go to Srila Prabhupada in the same way that all glories should go to Krishna. And so we don't keep any of those things that might be because of false.
We don't keep any of the glories for ourselves.
Yeah.
Nice, nice. Praneshwari Lakshmi, yes?
Can it also be that we feel humbled by the fact that Krishna actually loves us? I mean, we sometimes, because even in the material sense, when sometimes you don't deserve that much attention. You feel you don't deserve that much love or attention. Like, what did I ever do that you hold me in such high esteem? You feel very humbled by that. So could it be that I guess in awe that Krishna actually loves us and we're that special to him? I mean, that in itself just makes me like amazes me that not just me, but that he loves each one of us. Like each
Yes.
one of us is specifically special for him. That's amazing. So doesn't that kind of makes you humbled?
Yes, very nice. That's beautiful. Yes, Mahalakshmi.
Because love of God is so great and it keeps the heart so satisfied that one is ready to even go to the enemies for them to feel something, uh, even a small spark. And for that, one needs to be humble because going to the enemies, just with the only desire for them to experience even a small spark of that love, that's humility because they have been fighting against you. So you
Wow,
only
very
want
nice.
them to have some small experience, and it's not that he goes over them, but begs them, becomes a beggar.
Wow,
Please,
nice.
please take this present from the Lord.
Wow, nice. Okay, and we have a nice thing in the chat from Gaurangi Gandharvika. We know that any ability we have comes from Krishna. We cannot do anything without Krishna. Even we can't even glorify him with prayers or chant. We're solely dependent on his mercy. We cannot perform bhakti without his mercy. So why should we feel prestige? And Ranga Rama says, when we serve devotees, we'll become prideless. They always remember that they are servants, right? Carry the Trinadapi verse around our neck. And that's an intentional behavior. That's an anubhav that I'm going to choose to be humble. Okay, Ashabanda, hope. Firm hope that Krishna will be kind despite my lack of qualifications. It's nice that this is actually part of humility. That, yes, I'm so unqualified, but I just know that Krishna is going to be kind to me. Okay, some thoughts about how Ashabanda is an Anubhava. Okay, let's see what we have in the chat here. Srila Prabhupada, when asked an interviewer how come he succeeded, he said, because of my spiritual master's mercy. Very nice. From Sonia Raman. And Asutosa, soul, Satchitananda, and part and parcel of Krishna. We realize our false prestige starts falling apart. Yes, very nice. As far as Ashubandha, can anybody have any insight on Ashubandha? Ashubandha I'm hopeful that even though I'm so unqualified, still Krishna is going to come and get me. Sujana.
Hare Krishna. Mataji, I will, though we are utterly unqualified, Krishna is sending, he gave his holy name, his devotees association, um, everything, all the spiritual assets, what all we have, everything. This is mercy. Not only spiritual
Yes.
assets, everything actually.
And how is having this feeling an intentional expression of love?
Because he loves us, that's why he's providing all these things, and even the hope which we are getting is his blessing.
Yes, Mahalakshmi, it is hope against hope. That's the definition of it. Asutosha, Asubandha is the self-affirmation of Krishna's love and our ability to live the trust that we put in him. Oh, that is beautifully said. I feel like that should be up on my wall or something.
No, but I was saying that in relation to the squirrel, a squirrel in
Yes.
Ram's pastime,
Yes.
that the squirrel could be seen as an act of hope against hope because it was, in comparison to Hanuman, the squirrel was nothing, but still she offered her grain of.
Oh, nice. Very nice. Somehow I hope that this is a worthy service, even though technically it wouldn't be. Yes. Very nice. Okay, Samukanta, eagerness. Eagerness, an ardent desire to associate with the Lord. And we have this example. O Krishna, O flute player, the sweetness of your early age, that's Anudipana, is wonderful within these three worlds. You know my unsteadiness and I know yours. No one else knows about this. I want to see your beautiful, attractive face somewhere in a solitary place. But how can this be accomplished? This is Sri Rupa Goswami's example. Okay. Any thoughts about how this is an anubhav? A voluntary expression of love. Okay, there's something in the chat. And we carry something for the Lord's garland in eagerness. Yes, that's an example of this. Never getting enough of you. Yes, yes, exactly. Now, if I'm like that with another jiva, it can feel suffocating. If I go to another jiva and I say, I can never get enough of you, they're like, kind of, ah. But with Krishna, he's unlimited. So we can have this eagerness. Any other thoughts? I really want to see you, Lord. Yes, George Harrison's song. Yes, yes. It was a few weeks ago. When I was in Govardhan, and I was doing my puja, and I was just thinking of that song of George Harrison. I really want to see you. I really want to be with you. Yes. Pradeshwari Lakshmi.
Thinking it also be like I don't live near the temple, so I have the driveway to get there. And I always look forward to Sunday because I'm there every
Mm,
Sunday and I'm like, oh, I just want to go see what the Lord, I want to see him. Of course, I see him on the TV and on the screen, but seeing him in person at the temple is different than seeing it on the screen.
yeah. Wow. Nice example. Nice example. Okay. Right. Loyam and Utsav, yes. Eager to take darshan when the morning Govinda Adipurusham is sung. Yes. That is an eagerness. Okay. Now Mruchi, taste for the holy name. So Radhika is constantly pouring tears like nectar falling from flowers as she sings Krishna's holy name in a sweet voice. So how is this an anubhav? Any thoughts? How is this a voluntary action out of love? I think about there's a lot of popular mundane songs where people are repeating a name, the name of someone that they love. That's very common. Nardrishi, yes.
Srila Prabhupada often said when we chant, Krishna comes to dance on our tongue. And that's such an attractive thing to do. Make the Lord dance.
Very nice. Wow, what a nice meditation. Feeling the medals is an anubhava. Chanting extra rounds after 16. Okay. Glorifying in front of the Lord. Very nice. Okay. So this is attachment to describing Lord Krishna's qualities. The transcendental body of Krishna is very sweet, and his face is even sweeter than his body, but his soft smile, which has the fragrance of honey, is sweeter still. So how is this an anubhav? Any thoughts?
Because it's an active action. It's and remembering Krishna, describing Krishna is voluntarily. And one does it because Krishna is so wonderful. What else can one say? And that's why it's an anubhava, is voluntary description of him.
Voluntary, and because we love talking
be-
about him, right?
Yes.
Don't we all experience that? I hope all of you experience that. How wonderful it is to talk about Krishna in any way. Yes, Srujana.
Because that helps in meditating upon the qualities of Lord, the features, the beautiful features of
Mm,
Lord.
very nice. Okay. Here we have affection for temples and holy places. So how can this be an anubhav?
Same, because the love there in the heart is Krishna. Krishna, and the name is Krishna, and remembering is also Krishna. And one wants to be with Krishna, and the heart feels love, and one dances, is voluntarily loving Krishna. I feel that it is the same as the others.
Okay. Praneshwari Lakshmi?
I'm also thinking that this is the places where Krishna, I mean, he is everywhere, yes, but this is a place where he did his activities. The temple is the place where he is. I mean, that's his home, I guess. Like Srila Prabhupada says, the embassies in the material world. I mean, so there those you to go there and visit there and experience. I mean, it's different at the temple. I mean, you can feel his presence.
Yes. Very, very nice. I want to visit him in his home. Okay. So we have how Lord Chaitanya, he wants to experience this anubhav of the devotees. Oh, thank you, Gaurangi Gandharvika. You're very kind. So Lord Chaitanya wants to feel this anubhav of the devotees. And if Lord Chaitanya wants to feel it, then certainly we should aspire for it. So thank you for being here in this class on the Anubhavs. Anything good in this class is from Srila Prabhupada, Srila Rupa Goswami, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Srila Jiva Goswami, all of our acharyas and the Shastras. Anything bad here is my responsibility. Please either correct it or ignore it. And tomorrow we have no class. And I will see you again, Krishna willing, on Monday to discuss the Sattvika Bhavs. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srila Rupa Goswami ki jai.